Chapter 1431. The group of people thought so. Suddenly, Patriarch Hua said proudly, "Ninth young master, please take out the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb." Hu Yinyang and the others felt their hearts sink when they saw that smug and cold look on his face. However, just as he said that, Luo Qingtong's voice sounded again. "The map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. Why should I take out the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb?" Luo Qingtong looked real and confused. The young man tilted his head slightly and looked at Patriarch Hua and the others. "Yi Zhou. What do you mean?" Patriarch Hua's face darkened. He looked gloomily in the direction of Luo Qingtong, his face full of anger. Was this Yi Zhou playing with them? "You just said that you agreed with our opinion, and now you ask us why we should take out the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb." Patriarch Hua's face was overbearing as he looked at Luo Qingtong condescendingly. "I said that I agreed with your opinion, but I didn't say that I would take out the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb." Luo Qingtong's face was indifferent as she played with the jade fan in her hand. "Didn't you say that the strongest person would be qualified to have the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb and be the leader of everyone?" "That's right." Patriarch Hua looked coldly in the direction of Luo Qingtong. "So, do you think that the combined strength of all of you is stronger than all of the top clans?" Patriarch Hua no longer concealed the fact that the top families had joined forces to seize the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in Luo Qingtong's hands. The latter had taken the initiative to jump into their trap and admitted that only those who were strong enough could have the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. Then, unless she could really find the strength to fight against a group of top-notch families. Otherwise, no matter how she quibbled, the final result would not change. She must hand over the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. He wanted to see what other tricks she could play. Patriarch Hua's eyes were cold, and his words meant that he was determined to get it. There was even a feeling that he wanted to use Luo Qingtong's words to make things difficult for her even if he got the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. At that moment, the people around Luo Qingtong were stunned. Hu Zhongtian and the others subconsciously began to mobilize the strength in their bodies, preparing to fight Patriarch Hua and the others. Yu Sihuang also suddenly raised his eyebrows. He gestured with his hand and ordered the southern region forces around him to take Luo Qingtong away at all costs. He knew that this woman would not give in. However, after such a fuss, the difficulty of the Saint Monarch's tomb, the tomb would be much more dangerous. He did not care, but it was a little troublesome for Luo Qingtong. After all, she did not have time. Chapter 1432. Luo Qingtong's voice rang out. "That's right, I just feel that our strength is stronger than yours." Luo Qingtong opened the folding fan in her hand and gently fanned herself in front of her. She looked in the direction of Patriarch Hua and the others with an indifferent expression. "What a joke." Patriarch Hua sneered. He looked at Luo Qingtong with eyes full of contempt. If Luo Qingtong had said such words at the beginning, he would have admitted that Luo Qingtong's strength was stronger than theirs, for the sake of Yu Sihuang and the southern region's forces behind her. But now, he had joined forces with a group of the top families in Wild City, and Luo Qingtong had just offended the Ouyang family. They did not have to worry that the Ouyang family would go back on their word and stand on Luo Qingtong's side. As for the other big and small forces, they were waiting for them to get the map of the Saint King's tomb so that they could follow behind them and take advantage of the situation. Why would they stand on Luo Qingtong's side? It seemed that Luo Qingtong and the others would not be able to get any help at all. Under such circumstances, Luo Qingtong still dared to say that they were stronger than them. This was simply a joke. Did the other party think that they would be afraid by saying this? That's right, Luo Qingtong and the others had been aggressive as soon as they entered the Ouyang family. They even did not hesitate to offend the Ouyang family. Clearly, they felt that such a deliberate act of bravado would cause them to be afraid. They thought that they had a trump card behind them, so they gave up the idea of snatching the map of the Saint King's tomb in their hands. They had a good plan. However, unfortunately, they wouldn't be fooled. Since ninth young master thinks that your strength is stronger than ours, then please show it to us and let us have a look. Otherwise, don't blame us for taking action. Patriarch Hua's face was cold. If Luo Qingtong wanted to humiliate herself, they wouldn't stop her. Let's see what kind of strength she can bring out. Aside from the power brought by Yu Huang and the others, what other power did she have to rely on? Family who? Ha! The smile on Patriarch Hua's face was cold. He wanted to see how the other party would embarrass himself. What's the hurry? Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. From beginning to end, she was not in a hurry. You'll know soon enough. However, I want to confirm one thing first. Will you stop coveting the map of the sage monarch's tomb if I'm stronger than you? I won't think of anything else, a shameless solution. At this time, Yu Xingqi quickly followed up on Luo Qingtong's words, and even gave her a mischievous wink. The Hua family's patriarch and the others were furious. They were indeed targeting Luo Qingtong. However, he could do it, but he couldn't say it out loud. Yu Xingqi's words immediately made them feel as if they had been slapped in the face. In particular, the word shameless caused them to feel extremely embarrassed. Humph. The Hua clan's patriarch snorted. As long as you can come up with a strength that's not weaker than ours, we won't complain even if you ask us not to participate in this expedition to the sage monarch's tomb. However, if you can't bring out the corresponding strength. Chapter 1433. He glanced at Luo Qingtong and the rest with a malicious look and snorted. Then all of you, don't participate in this exploration of the Saint King's tomb. Including the imperial sect leader and all the southern region forces. How about it? Yi Zhou, do you dare to agree? The Hua family head and the rest did not even bother to address him as the ninth young master. In their opinion, Luo Qingtong and the rest could not compare to them at all. Everything that Luo Qingtong said in this clubhouse was just a bluff. Since she wanted to do this, they would let her bluff until the end. They would see if she could bear the consequences of her bluff being broken. The Hua family head's words were very insidious. If Luo Qingtong agreed and did not show that she was stronger than them, then not only would she lose the map of the Saint King's tomb, but she would also not be able to enter the tomb. Not only that, but Yu Huang and the rest of the southern region forces would also be implicated. At that time, even Yu Huang's reputation in the southern region would suffer a certain blow. After all, so many people could not enter the Saint King's tomb because he had helped Luo Qingtong and missed the opportunity to obtain the opportunity. This impact on his reputation in the southern region could not be said to be small. The Hua family head's words were extremely harsh. As soon as he said this, there was an uproar on the southern region's side. They did not think that Luo Qingtong and the rest could go against the Hua family and the other top families. Even if they added their strength, it would not be enough. The other party had better admit defeat immediately and then hand over the map of the Saint King's tomb with both hands. This way, they would still have a chance to enter the tomb. Otherwise, they would not be able to keep the map and enter the tomb. The loss would not be worth it. The southern region people were in an uproar. Provoked by the Hua family head's words, they were extremely dissatisfied with Luo Qingtong. King! Let's ask her to hand over the map of the Saint King's tomb. Yes. She obviously has no strength, but she still wants to show off. If she implicates us and we can't even enter the tomb, how can they compensate us? My king! Don't let Yi Zhou continue to be stubborn. Let her bow down to the Hua family. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to enter the sage monarch's tomb. If you don't have the strength, you should know your place. The people of the southern region could not help but complain. I won't force you. Luo Qingtong looked at them coldly. Yu Huang brought these southern mountain range people to help her. She naturally remembered his kindness, but it did not mean that she owed these southern mountain range people. Those who were willing to stay were free to do so. If you don't want to stay, then leave immediately. She would definitely not stop him. She, Luo Qingtong, had never needed to rely on anyone to get through difficult times. If that was the case, she would have died countless times already. She didn't care if these people from the southern mountain range wanted to leave. I agree to Patriarch Hua's request. If you don't want to stay, you can leave now. Luo Qingtong's eyes were cold. Before the people of the southern mountain range could speak, Yu Siwang gently stroked the tear mole at the corner of his eye. His expression was light and charming as he said lazily, I naturally want to follow little Joe. Chapter 1434. He glanced at the group of people from the southern region coldly and charmingly. If you're willing to follow, then follow. If not, then leave. For those who stay, the imperial sect will be responsible for all your losses. Now, do you have any more nonsense to say? Yu Siwang's smile had always been enchanting and charming, coupled with his devilishly handsome face. For no reason, he gave people the impression that he was easy to talk to. However, at this moment, the smile on his face remained, but the light in his eyes was very cold. The aura around him was unusually cold and powerful, and the people from the southern region did not dare to say another word. This was the true aura of the king of the 3 islands and 7 lands of the southern region. Those who dared to look down on Yu Siwang because of his bewitching appearance, in the end, they wouldn't even know how they died. The group of people from the southern region fell silent. Luo Qingtong glanced at Yu Siwang and did not say anything. Then, she looked at the Hua family head and the others who were waiting to watch a good show and said, Hua family head, did you hear clearly? We agree. Are you sure you want to agree? Don't regret it when the time comes. Say that the Hua family can't make decisions for you. Luo Qingtong said as she glanced at the family heads of the top families. Humph. You don't have to worry about this. Of course, we have no objections. The family heads of the top families looked disdainful. Was the other party trying to sow discord and create a rift between them and the Hua family head? Unfortunately, they would not do that at all. There was nothing wrong with the Hua family head's method. Forcing Luo Qingtong and the others to not enter the Saint King's tomb meant that they would have one less enemy. After all, the strength of the people from the southern region was still very strong. The family heads of the top families did not have any objections at all and immediately spoke up. All right. Luo Qingtong looked at them and nodded. Ouyang family head, everyone, did you hear what they said? When the results are out later, you won't speak up for them anymore, right? Luo Qingtong said and looked up at the head of the Ouyang family who was sitting on the main seat. Since the beginning of the meeting, the latter had been leading the Ouyang family's people and coldly watching the Hua family's patriarch and the others attack Luo Qingtong and the others. When he heard Luo Qingtong's words, he immediately looked up at her. Of course not. Our Ouyang clan will naturally make a fair decision. Ouyang family head looked at Luo Qingtong with eyes full of mockery. This Yi Zhou, was he unable to find any breakthrough points or support? He had actually led the topic to himself and the others. Unfortunately, no matter how serious she sounded or how certain she was, he would not stop the Hua family head and the others from taking action. He was just waiting to see how unlucky she was. How would he explain to the imperial sect behind Yu Siwang? According to his knowledge, within the imperial school, the Yu siblings were not the only ones who had the qualifications to inherit the imperial school. At this moment, Yu Siwang was supporting Yi Zhou with all his might, looking awe-inspiring and insufferably arrogant. However, if the foundation of the imperial school was shaken because of this matter, he was afraid that the person in the imperial school would not let it go easily. At that time, Not to mention that Yu Siwang's status as the king of the southern region and his reputation would be damaged, even his position as the imperial school's patriarch would not be stable. Humph. Chapter 1435. If you don't have any more, then please show us what you've got. If you're not as good as Patriarch Hua and the others, then we can only ask you to leave the Grand Assembly of the Saint King's tomb. After all, those who were not qualified to enter the Saint King's tomb had no reason to stay. Was that not the case? Patriarch Ouyang's face was cold. After he spoke, before Luo Qingtong could speak, a voice suddenly sounded from outside. Patriarch! Patriarch! As this urgent voice rang out, a figure rushed in from outside in an instant. It was a guard from the Ouyang family. His feet barely touched the ground as he rushed into the venue like a whirlwind. His voice was urgent and urgent. Impudent! Where is this place? How can you make such a ruckus? Patriarch Ouyang was scolding Luo Qingtong. Before he could finish his humiliating words, he was interrupted in front of everyone. Moreover, the Ouyang family guard looked panicked. That hurried figure looked as if he was rolling and crawling as he ran in. This immediately made the Ouyang family head lose his face. In the Wildland city, all the major and minor forces were present. Who would not give the Ouyang family some face? Moreover, even if these people were not present, what force in the Wildland city was worthy of the Ouyang family's guard being so panicked? It was really embarrassing. With that thought in mind, the Ouyang family's head was about to order the people around him to drag the Ouyang family's guard away. The guard had just rushed in from outside. Before he could say anything, he was about to be dragged away by Patriarch Ouyang. He suddenly felt anxious. No, Patriarch. Just as he opened his mouth, an extremely hearty voice suddenly rang out from the outside at this moment. The Ouyang family is taking the lead in organizing the Grand Assembly of the Saint King's tomb. I wonder if our people from the Dark Colors Arena have the opportunity and honor to participate in the Grand Assembly of the Saint King's tomb. As this voice rang out, the body of the Ouyang clan guard who had come to report the news shook violently. His eyes were filled with fear and respect as he looked at the entrance. Someone from the Dark Color Arena. In Savage City, and even in the Western Wastelands, who was the most intimidating force? It wasn't the Ouyang clan or any other clan. It was the Dark Color Arena. Translator, WQL Editor. Alim. This arena was the largest and most powerful force in Far West Wilderness where pioneers vented their negative emotions and ferocious chi. However, it had never participated in the disputes of the Far West Wilderness. Moreover, it was rumored that the power behind it came from the hidden world. Therefore, no one would deliberately provoke them. Therefore, when most people mentioned the forces of the Far West Wilderness, they would skip over them. Even the Ouyang family head was no exception. For so many years, the people of the Dark Color Arena had never participated in anything in the Far West Wilderness. The Ouyang clan, Hua clan, and other top clans relied on this opportunity to rise to power. Therefore, they did not expect that the Dark Colors Arena would participate in the Sage Monarch's tomb incident. Ouyang family head and the others had automatically excluded the existence of the dark-colored arena from the very beginning of the invitation. Chapter 1436. This was the first time in the history of the Far West Wilderness. One had to know that the last time the Dark Colosseum sent people out, it was during the darkest period of power struggle in the Western Wilderness. The various forces were fighting to divide the territories in the Wild City and the Far West Wilderness. Someone had offended the Dark Colosseum and his entire family was annihilated. That force was the number one force in the Ouyang clan. After the Ouyang clan was annihilated, the Ouyang clan, as one of the top clans, took the opportunity to rise to the top. And the strength and status of that first force in the Far West Wilderness was much higher than that of the current Ouyang clan. At this moment, everyone was shocked when they heard that the people from the Dark Colosseum had arrived. Bang! 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 The Ouyang clan master and the rest of the top forces stood up and looked in the direction of the door where the sound came from. There, a group of figures walked towards them. The aura of each figure was not weaker than the experts of the top clans behind the Ouyang clan master and the rest. They were not much weaker than the Ouyang clan master and the rest. The man at the front had an imposing aura, and his eyes were as sharp as an eagle's. The aura around him was not obvious, but the Ouyang clan master and the rest took a deep breath when they saw him. Director Cheng. The person who came was the person in charge of the Dark Colosseum in the Wild City. At the same time, he was also the person in charge of the Dark Colosseum in the far west wilderness. The group of people from the Dark Colosseum entered the Ouyang clan's martial arts field. When the crowd saw this group of people approaching, they could not help but hold their breaths. The Dark Colosseum had never participated in the matters of the far west wilderness. Why was it making an exception this time? The crowd looked at Director Cheng and the rest as they walked closer. They did not know the purpose of the Dark Colosseum's visit. The Ouyang clan master and the rest were even more shocked. If the Dark Colosseum also participated in the exploration of the Saint King's tomb, then the chances of them gaining something, especially a great harvest, would be much smaller. The Ouyang clan master, especially, frowned when he thought of the agreement between himself and Feng Wan. However, he did not show it on his face. Ha! Director Cheng, your presence brings light to the Ouyang clan's humble dwelling. As he spoke, he walked towards Chief Steward Cheng with a face full of smiles. Ouyang clan master, you're too kind. Director Cheng looked at the Ouyang clan master and the Huo clan master who were not far behind him. He smiled and said, we're here this time, we're here to participate in the grand meeting of the Saint King's tomb. As for the exploration of the Saint King's tomb, we're not participating. As soon as he spoke, everyone present heaved a sigh of relief. It would be great if the Dark Color Arena did not participate in the exploration of the Saint Monarch's tomb. The Ouyang clan master, Ouyang clan masters of Saint clan was ancient, Ouyang clan, Sects Ouyang peak, the realm, Ouyang clan's realm. With this thought in mind, everyone's minds immediately relaxed. Ouyang Colosseum. Peak of the Dark Call. Of the Sect of. Peak. Alalalalalalalize of S. Chapter 1437. Then, Chief Steward Cheng, your purpose here is, Ouyang family head looked at Chief Steward Cheng and the others. He glanced at the group of experts from the dark-colored arena behind Chief Steward Cheng. From the looks of it, they didn't seem like they were just here to stroll around the sage monarch's tomb. Moreover, they weren't even planning to participate in the sage monarch's tomb conference. Why would they want to stroll around? Unless, as Ouyang family head thought of this, his face suddenly turned cold. Behind him, Huo family head and the others seemed to have thought of something, and their faces suddenly turned solemn. Just as their faces turned solemn, Luo Qingtong's voice suddenly rang out. Chief Steward Cheng, come over here. As soon as Luo Qingtong's voice rang out, everyone's eyes instantly turned to Luo Qingtong's direction. They saw a delicate young man in green robes with a jade crown tying his hair where family whose people were. His expression was indifferent as he fiddled with the folding fan in his hand. He raised his eyes slightly and looked in the direction of Chief Steward Cheng. He raised his hand and pointed in the direction of the empty space beside him. Hu Yinyang and the others all moved to the side, and the empty space that they moved out of was extremely dazzling, appearing in front of everyone's eyes. What shocked them even more was that Chief Steward Cheng didn't refute Luo Qingtong's words. He just smiled gently and then led the group of people from the dark-colored arena. They walked in the direction of Luo Qingtong. Everyone looked at this scene in shock. They didn't know what to feel. The people from the dark-colored arena were actually here for Luo Qingtong and the others. When they thought of what Chief Steward Cheng had said and saw this scene, how could they not understand what was going on? No wonder Chief Steward Ching said that they were here to participate in the Sage Monarch's Tomb Conference and not to participate in the exploration of the Sage Monarch's tomb. It turned out that they were here to support Luo Qingtong and the others. When they thought of the bet that Luo Qingtong had just made with Hu family head and the others, everyone's eyes immediately focused on Hu family head and the other top family heads. The moment Luo Qingtong spoke and Chief Steward Ching and the others walked over, the latter and the others had already turned pale. Especially Hu family head, his face looked as if it had been painted with a layer of white paint. There was no color in his face. Luo Qingtong and the others had actually invited the people from the dark-colored arena to support them. How was this possible? How could the other party have such an ability? One should know that the people from the dark-colored arena would not easily get involved in the far western wilderness's fights. This was a rule in the dark arena. This was one's rules. Even Chief Steward Ching, as the person in charge of the dark-colored arena in the far west wilderness, had to abide by the rules. Thinking of this, Hu family head and the others felt a little relieved. No matter how this Yi Jiu had invited the other party, with this rule, the other party could not interfere in the matters between them and Yi Jiu. At that time, they would still win. While Hu family head and the others were feeling relieved, Yu Si Huang looked at Chief Steward Ching and the others walking over. He suddenly smiled and looked at Luo Qingtong and said, "I didn't expect little Jiu, to have such a move." As he spoke, he transmitted a message to Luo Qingtong in a low voice, "You used that guest token." Chapter 1438. No wonder the girl was so confident. She didn't care about the people from the southern region behind him. He was worried for nothing. With the strength of the Dark Colosseum, even if all the southern region forces behind him left, the people from the Dark Colosseum alone were enough to embarrass Clan Head Hua and the others. The pit that these people had dug for Luo Qingtong was all retribution on them. All he had to do was watch over them. When the time came, it would be too late for regrets. Thinking like this, Yu Si Huang suddenly chuckled and relaxed his body that was ready to go. He released all of the aura that he had gathered around him. With the people from the Dark Colosseum present, this battle couldn't be fought. Of course, Clan Head Hua and the others could forget about snatching the map of the Saint King's tomb from Luo Qingtong. Yu Si Huang's face was happy, but Hu Yinyang and Hu Zhongtian's faces were full of surprise. They didn't know that Luo Qingtong had the Dark Colosseum's guest token. They didn't know that after Luo Qingtong dealt with the people sent by Clan Head Hua, they had a premonition that the people from the Hua clan wouldn't leave it at that. In addition, the Ouyang clan was obviously on Feng Wuan's side. Just in case, Luo Qingtong left family Hu at that time and went to the Dark Colosseum. She used the guest token as the price to invite the people from the Dark Colosseum to help her. For the matter of the far west wilderness, no matter who she invited, it would be more intimidating than the people from the Dark Colosseum. However, after using the guest token, Luo Qingtong couldn't refuse the invitations and enlistments of the Dark Colosseum in the future. She was going to the hidden world from the beginning. Moreover, the enlistment of the Dark Colosseum was still early, so Luo Qingtong wasn't in a hurry. After the people from the Dark Colosseum walked to Luo Qingtong's side, Manager Qing immediately nodded slightly to Luo Qingtong and said, "Ninth young master, I respectfully listen to your orders." The two of them had already dealt with each other. The dark-colored arena's guest elder medallion was never easily given out. In order to prevent people from abusing their position for personal gain and recklessly issuing guest elder tokens, before using them, there would be a test. As for Luo Qingtong, she was the fastest and the best among all the people Chief Steward Ching had received. Chief Steward Ching had never seen someone as powerful as Wen Do. It was as if this line of work was completely made for her. After confirming Luo Qingtong's strength, he was naturally very polite to Luo Qingtong. After all, a guest elder with such literary skills might not be worth much in the outside world, and there was nothing worth paying attention to. However, to the people of the dark color arena, he was a VIP among VIPs. Everyone looked as if they had lost their parents. Seeing this, Chief Steward Qing raised his eyebrows and looked at Luo Qingtong, asking, "Ninth young master, what's going on?" "It's nothing." Luo Qingtong chuckled as she looked at the Huo family's patriarch and the others who looked like they were about to faint. She chuckled softly and said, "It's just that the Huo family's patriarch made a bet with me. Now that they're about to lose, they can't take it anymore." Not only were they unable to withstand it, the Huo clan's clan head and the others even had thoughts of suicide. They were just waiting to see Luo Qingtong and the others being driven out by the Ouyang family's clan head. In the end, they didn't expect that they would be the ones to lose in the end. How could the Huo clan's clan head and the others accept this? Since you know that there are rules in the dark arena, then you should know that even though I'm in charge of the dark arena, I can't go against the rules of the dark arena and bring so many people here. Mind your own business. At this point, Chief Steward Qing said coldly, "Ninth young master Yi is our dark color arena's VIP. Of course I have something that can use the power of the dark arena. As for what it is, you don't need to know." At this time, the patriarchs of the other top families had an unspeakable resentment towards Patriarch Hua. If you want to snatch the Saint Monarch's tomb map, then snatch it. If you want to snatch the map, then forget it. In the end, you had to kill Luo Qingtong and the others. Not only did you want to snatch the map, but you also wanted to make it impossible for them to enter the Saint Monarch's tomb. Now you're done, right? You've dug your own grave, right? Everyone's hearts were filled with unspeakable regret. They cooperated with Patriarch Hua before because they saw that the other party had a higher chance of winning. And the result? Luo Qingtong turned out to be backed by people from the Dark Colosseum. Chapter 1442. Even if the Ouyang clan and the other forces of Wild City were to join in, they would not be able to deal with the other party. They were really crazy before to cooperate with the Huo clan head and let him deal with Luo Qingtong without any mercy. The group was even more regretful. Why didn't they refuse when Luo Qingtong asked them if they were sure they wanted to bet with the Huo clan head? If they had refused at that time, they would not be the unlucky ones. The group was restless. On the other side, the Ouyang clan head was being stared at by Luo Qingtong and the people from the Dark Colors arena. He wanted to protect the Huo clan head and the others, but he had no way to do so. He did not want the Huo clan head and the others to be eliminated. After all, after entering the Saint King's tomb, the strength of Luo Qingtong and the others would be almost the same as theirs. After all, even if the people from the Dark Colors arena did not participate, Luo Qingtong had the people from the southern region by her side. He looked coldly at the people from the top clans and said in a deep voice, "If you agree to bet, you must accept defeat." After he said these 4 words, he said, "You should know what to do in your hearts, right?" If these people were smart enough, they would know what to do now. Things like face could only be regained after the benefits were reaped. It was up to them to choose. The faces of the people from the top clans turned even uglier. The Huo clan head's face changed dramatically for a moment, then he gritted his teeth and strode forward, saying, "Let's go." He would rather not participate in this exploration of the Saint King's tomb than bow down to Luo Qingtong and the others. The Huo clan could not afford to lose face again. However, just as he was about to lead the crowd away, he heard the voices of the clan heads of the top clans behind him. "Ninth young master, we were wrong this time. Please be magnanimous and forgive us this time." The group of people from the top aristocratic families understood the meaning of Master Ouyang's words as soon as they heard his voice. Thinking of the possible rich rewards in the Saint King's tomb, the crowd suddenly gritted their teeth and apologized to Luo Qingtong and bowed their heads. After all, they were not the Huo clan head who had a direct grudge with Luo Qingtong. They could only be regarded as blind followers and accomplices at most. If they sincerely begged for mercy and apologized, Luo Qingtong might not continue to haggle over it. With this thought in mind, everyone immediately compromised one after another. Amidst this series of voices, the Huo family head and the others strode out, looking unusually isolated and awkward. He looked at the clan heads of the top clans who had promised to deal with Luo Qingtong with an indescribable embarrassment on his face. How could the Huo clan's patriarch not see that he had been abandoned by these top clans? You people are really stupid to the extreme. Do you think this Yi Zhou will care about your pleas? The Huo clan's patriarch sneered to her, all of you are powerful competitors. She can't wait to eliminate you to the end too. I don't know how much she likes what I said before. Only people like you who have been blinded by benefits would think that she would spare you. Begging for mercy like this is just asking for your own humiliation. The Huo clan head's voice was furious. Chapter 1443. Who says I won't let them off? As soon as Luo Qingtong's words came out, the surrounding people, including Hu Yannyang, Yu Sihuang, and the others, were all shocked. Everyone's eyes were on her. Luo Qingtong wanted to let these people off. The other party and the Huo family head were making things difficult for her. If Luo Qingtong didn't have the Dark Arena's guest elder token as her trump card, who knows how they would have bullied her in this Sage Monarch's Tomb convention. Now, she actually wanted to let them off. This wasn't her style. Yu Sihuang, Hu Yannyang, and the others all looked at Luo Qingtong in surprise. The latter didn't explain and just looked in the direction of the Huo family head and the others with an indifferent face. I didn't want to offend all the top forces in the wild city. It's just that you were aggressive, and I had to fight back. As she said, she smiled at the Huo family head and said, since you are all willing to apologize, it's not like I can't forgive you. It's just that, as she said, her eyes glanced at the crowd and fell on the Ouyang family head. She smiled and said, I need the Ouyang family head to take out the Ouyang family's map of the Sage Monarch's tomb and take a look. Hearing Luo Qingtong's words, the people present were even more stunned. They all looked at Luo Qingtong with a puzzled face. She wanted to see the Ouyang family's map of the Sage Monarch's tomb. That map, even if Luo Qingtong didn't ask the Ouyang family head to take it out, he would have taken it out before the Sage Monarch's Tomb convention ended and combined it with the map in her hands to form a new route. With this request, wasn't Luo Qingtong purposely letting off this group of people from the top families? What was she thinking? The group of people didn't know what Luo Qingtong wanted to do. Needless to say, Yu Sihuang and Hu Yannyang. Especially Yu Sihuang, he found that he was getting more and more confused about the girl's train of thought. He was the king of the southern mountain range, but in front of Luo Qingtong, he was like a fledgling who did not know how to scheme. He had no idea what she was going to do. When Yi Qianxian and Luo Qingtong were together, did they often feel this way? If that was the case, it was no wonder that Yi Qianxian would fall in love with Luo Qingtong. Only Luo Qingtong could give them this kind of unfathomable feeling of surprise and shock, right? Young girls were truly different from ordinary girls. Thinking like this, Yu Sihuang immediately stared at Luo Qingtong's body. At the same time, the cold voice of the Ouyang patriarch could be heard. Yi Zhou, what do you mean by this? The head of the Ouyang family was a little angry. Even if he was very afraid of the strength of the Dark Colosseum, it did not mean that he could let Luo Qingtong do whatever she wanted. It was really strange for the boy to make such a request. Could it be that he had designs on the Ouyang family's map of the Sage Monarch's tomb? The head of the Ouyang family thought like this, and suddenly his face was filled with anger. Looking at Luo Qingtong, his gaze was also very unfriendly, revealing a cold mood that was about to take action. If the boy really dared to say, yes, then don't blame him for not caring about the strength of the Dark Colosseum and taking action against him. Chapter 1444. Ouyang family head, why are you panicking? I just want to borrow the Ouyang family's map of the Saint Monarch's tomb to have a look, in case something unexpected happens. After all, there are too many things happening in the Saint Monarch's tomb conference. Isn't that so? Luo Qingtong's words were obviously referring to something. That, too many things happening, was obviously referring to the Ouyang family head, Wu family head, and the others who had attacked Luo Qingtong. The Ouyang family head's face was ugly. However, in his heart, he was quietly relieved. It turned out that Luo Qingtong was worried about this. No wonder she was willing to let go of those people from the top families. Thinking that he had figured out the reason why Luo Qingtong was doing this, the Ouyang family head suddenly felt relieved. This was an excellent opportunity for him. As long as he agreed, he would not only have helpers in the Saint Monarch's tomb, but also gain the gratitude of the top families and get a lot of benefits. The Ouyang family head didn't need to think too much at all. He was just worried that after entering the Saint Monarch's tomb, there would only be one top force, and they would be too weak. Moreover, if he agreed to Feng Wuan's request, there must be enough top families to enter. Thinking so, he immediately agreed to Luo Qingtong's request. Okay, if you agree to let them have the qualification to enter the Saint Monarch's tomb again, I will show you the Ouyang family's map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. However, it must be in front of everyone. And you can't hold it for too long, the Ouyang family head said. Okay. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. How about a quarter of an hour? Why so long? The Ouyang family head looked at her suspiciously. She had the family whose map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in her hand. Shouldn't she just take a look and know the authenticity of the Saint Monarch's tomb map? The Ouyang family was the first to announce this news. If I don't take a closer look, I'm afraid I can't compare to the Ouyang family head's means. Luo Qingtong's words were unusually obvious. The Ouyang family head snorted coldly and suddenly said nothing. He waved his hand and signaled his confidant to retrieve the map of the sage monarch's tomb. At the same time, Patriarch Hua and other members of the Hua family stood not far away from Luo Qingtong and the others. Their faces were full of embarrassment and unwillingness. Patriarch. An elder of the Hua clan looked at the patriarch of the Hua clan. Humph. Stay here. Hua family head gritted his teeth. He had wanted to lead everyone away. However, they didn't expect that the group of people from the top clans would abandon them. At this time, in order to verify the authenticity of the Ouyang family's map of the Saint Monarch's tomb, Luo Qingtong agreed to let the people from the top families go. The Hua family head was so angry that he almost vomited blood. If he had known that Luo Qingtong would let them go for the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb, why would he have been in such a hurry to leave? Now that he was riding a tiger, it was hard to get off. He could neither leave nor stay. If they didn't leave, they would lose face. If they left, they would lose the chance to enter the Saint Monarch's tomb. How could the Hua family head be willing? Anyway, when Luo Qingtong and the Ouyang family had agreed, they didn't say that the Hua family was not included among the families that would be let go. Then they would force them to stay. Who asked Yi Jiu to create such a loophole? The Hua family didn't break the agreement. Chapter 1445. Sister, these people from the Hua family are so shameless. Yu Xingqi noticed all this and immediately whispered in Luo Qingtong's ear. As she spoke, she looked in the direction of the Hua family head and the others. Yu Xingqi's voice was not soft, and many people from other families heard it. Hearing this, everyone immediately looked in the direction of the Hua family head and the others. The latter and the others were suddenly stared at by so many people's unclear gazes, and suddenly their faces turned red and white. But so many top families could enter the Saint King's tomb, it was absolutely impossible for the Hua family head to give up just like that. Immediately, the whole family's patriarch faced everyone's gazes with his thick skin. Didn't she say that she doesn't care about our previous bet? Since they don't care about it, our whole family naturally can't care about it anymore. He sneered. Then he looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong with a cold and arrogant face. So what if Luo Qingtong and the others were unhappy in their hearts? Who told them not to make it clear just now? They took advantage of the loophole for no reason. Who was to blame? Looking at the whole family head's smug face, Yu Xingqi felt depressed. Sister, brother, they are too shameless. What should I do? Yu Xingqi pouted and looked at Luo Qingtong with an eager face. She didn't know if Luo Qingtong would let her do it. If it weren't for the fear of ruining Luo Qingtong's business, she would have done it long ago. Don't pay attention to them. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She didn't even look at the whole family head and the others. Did the other party really think that if she didn't do it deliberately, they could escape this disaster and shamelessly stay here to give her a hard time? They even looked like they were showing off. In the future, they would know what it meant to be unable to cry even if they wanted to. Luo Qingtong let the whole family head and the others go for a reason. It was the same for those people from the top families. Did these people really think that she was so easy to talk to? Or was she so negligent? Were they kidding? Luo Qingtong's gaze glanced at the whole family head and the others, and finally focused on the Ouyang family head's confidant not far away. The latter was holding the map of the Saint King's tomb in his hand. From afar, Luo Qingtong could feel the mutual attraction between the maps of the Saint King's tomb. The map of the Saint Monarch's tomb, the overall map, and the 4 incomplete maps were finally complete. Luo Qingtong's eyes flashed and the blood-red light in her eyes disappeared. Humph! Give it to her. Ouyang family head snorted coldly. He raised his hand and asked his confidant to bring the map of the Saint King's tomb to Luo Qingtong. In front of so many people, the other party would not dare to snatch the map of the sage monarch's tomb. Otherwise, even if the other party had the support of the Dark Colors Arena, he still had enough reason to make things difficult for her. Moreover, the people of the Dark Color Arena would not allow him to do so, because it would ruin their reputation. The whole family had thought so. He wasn't worried that the Saint King's tomb map would be snatched. Luo Qingtong didn't intend to snatch it either. She didn't need to use such a low-level method. In front of so many people, the whole family head had something on her. She took the Saint King's tomb map. The moment she lowered her head to look at it, the bloody light in her eyes flashed. Chapter 1446. Luo Qingtong's eyes swept across the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. Like an X-ray, she imprinted every inch of the map's texture and hidden lines. However, in the eyes of the crowd, Luo Qingtong was looking down at the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. She looked at it very carefully, almost from top to bottom, scanning every detail. However, the crowd already knew the reason why Luo Qingtong asked Ouyang family head for this map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. They did not feel that this young man's action was abrupt. If Luo Qingtong was just looking at it casually, they would really feel strange in their hearts, okay? This was the psychology of people. They always felt that if you did not check carefully for something that you tried so hard to get, there must be something fishy about it. While everyone was thinking about this, Luo Qingtong calmly imprinted the map of the Ouyang family Saint King's tomb into her eyes. She closed her eyes slightly and withdrew the bloody light and the topographic pattern of the Saint Monarch's tomb. Then, she raised her head and looked in the direction of Ouyang family head. Thank you for your generosity, Ouyang family head. Luo Qingtong's lips curled into a smile. Wasn't this a generous gift? Ouyang family head was equivalent to giving the entire map of the Saint Monarch's tomb to her. She should thank him. Humph. Ouyang family head did not understand the meaning of Luo Qingtong's words. He looked at the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb handed over by Luo Qingtong and raised his hand to take it. Previously, he did not seem to care, but in fact, he had been staring at the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in Luo Qingtong's hands. However, in front of everyone, Luo Qingtong did not do anything. That map of the Saint Monarch's tomb was held in her hands. From the beginning to the end, it had never left their sight. It was impossible to do anything to it. Ouyang family head was very relieved. After taking the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb, he looked at Luo Qingtong and said, "Yi Zhou, this map of the Saint Monarch's tomb, you have seen it. Now, you should take out the map in your hand. Let's combine the maps together and show the corresponding route, right?" Ouyang family head's face was cold. The map of the Saint Monarch's tomb that belonged to family who was not snatched from Luo Qingtong's hands, which made him feel very depressed in his heart. However, the saint's tomb had to be explored. It was impossible to not cooperate with the other party just because the map was in Luo Qingtong's hands. What's the hurry? Luo Qingtong's eyes' lips. Had Xie's tomb, Lu's tombs was already she had collected all the maps, tomb, San the monarch, tombs. SSS. This was. Later, Huo family head and the others would know what it meant to regret. I'm going to sell the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in my hands. I wonder if anyone wants to buy it. Luo Qingtong's words were shocking. Everyone was waiting for her to take out the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb and combine it with the Ouyang family heads. In this way, the route would be revealed. They could also gather people and explore the Saint Monarch's tomb with Luo Qingtong and the Ouyang family's people. Chapter 1447. Everyone was suddenly surprised. Was this Yi Zhou crazy? Why did he suddenly say such a thing? Previously, Clan Head Hua and the others had tried every means to get their hands on the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb, but they failed to get it. In the end, they were slapped in the face again and again. Now, she actually took the initiative to sell it. How stupid was it for Clan Head Hua and the others to send themselves to be slapped in the face? The crowd thought so and suddenly looked at Clan Head Hua and the others who were not far away with a strange expression. Among them were the clan heads of the top clans. At this moment, they all looked at Luo Qingtong in disbelief and could not react for a long time. Yi. Ninth young master, do you really want to sell the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in your hand? Since you said it, you will never go back on your words. A clan head of a top clan came back to his senses and immediately asked impatiently. Of course. Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent as she nodded and said, as long as you can afford to pay a price that satisfies me, this map of the Saint Monarch's tomb is yours. As soon as she said this, in an instant, the clan heads of the top clans who originally did not have any hope of getting the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb went crazy. However, they still retained a trace of rationality. A clan head of a top clan looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong with a vigilant expression and said, this map of the Saint Monarch's tomb is related to the harvest in the Saint Monarch's tomb. There is a huge difference between having a map and not having one. Why do you want to give this map to us? As soon as this clan head of a top clan spoke, in an instant, the other clan heads of the top clans also looked in Luo Qingtong's direction. The question in the clan head's heart was also in the minds of the rest of the top clans. To be able to sit in his current position, none of the people present were truly stupid or foolish. At this moment, in the face of Luo Qingtong's behavior, which was like a pie falling from the sky, the clan heads of the top clans were full of doubts. They really wanted the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb very much. However, this did not mean that they knew that there might be a trap ahead and would jump into it. How could a map of the Saint Monarch's tomb be more important than their respective clans? If Luo Qingtong could not clearly explain the reason, they would not even touch the map of the Saint King's tomb even if it was right in front of them. They had just conspired with the Huo family head and ended up being slapped in the face by Luo Qingtong. The scene of them almost not being able to explore the Saint King's tomb was still vivid in their minds. How could they still take Luo Qingtong's unusual action lightly? You don't have to be so nervous. Luo Qingtong's lips curled up slightly as she looked at them, as if they were facing a formidable enemy. The reason why I took out this map is because, she glanced at Yu Si Huang. We have another map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. Yu Si Huang's lips twitched. Tong Tong, can you be any more deceitful? How could it be like this? You obviously have a copy in your hands, but you just had to say that I have a copy. Too treacherous. However, although Yu Si Huang muttered in his heart, he still took out the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in his hands. Chapter 1448. My map of the Sage Monarch's tomb. Yu Si Huang was in tears. Opposite him, the patriarchs of the top clans were stunned. They were not the only ones. The other clans were the same. This included the Ouyang and Huo clans. Yi Jiu and the others have another map of the Sage Monarch's tomb. Looking at the map of the Sage Monarch's tomb in Yu Si Huang's hands, Patriarch Hua and the others instantly beat their chests and stomped their feet. If he had known that Luo Qingtong had more than one map of the Sage Monarch's tomb, he would not have been so anxious and troubled. With one map of the Sage Monarch's tomb, Luo Qingtong could have sold the map of the Sage Monarch's tomb to family Hu. No wonder she said she wanted to sell it. If they had not been so aggressive, she might have already put the map of the Sage Monarch's tomb up for sale. If that was the case, why did they have to put themselves in such a difficult situation? They even had such a deep feud with her. Now, he did not know if he would have the opportunity to bid for the map of the Sage Monarch's tomb. Patriarch Hua's intestines were about to turn green with regret. As for the other patriarchs of the top families, they couldn't wait to call out their bids. We want to buy the map of the Sage Monarch's tomb. The Guo clan is willing to pay 10% of our annual resources. The Guo clan is willing to pay 10% of our harvest in the western wilderness this year to bid for the map of the Sage Monarch's tomb. The Lu clan is willing to pay 20%. 30%, plus the alliance with the 9th Young Lord. This was Patriarch Wang's offer. The patriarchs of the top clans were competing for the map. In this Sage Monarch's tomb conference, only they had the wealth and qualifications to compete with each other. Just as their voices were getting louder and louder, the Huo clan's patriarch's voice suddenly rang out. The Huo clan will pay half of the annual resources. Not only that, the Huo clan will also pay 10% of the next year's harvest to family Hu. As Patriarch Hua's voice rang out, everyone's eyes instantly focused on him. The Huo clan also came to bid for the map of the Sage Monarch's tomb. The faces of the patriarchs of the top clans, who were shouting happily, turned ugly. The Huo clan's strength was above theirs. In particular, his foundation was much deeper than theirs. The moment the other party opened his mouth, it meant that they basically had no chance. With such thoughts in mind, how could the patriarchs of the top clans be willing? Previously, it was Patriarch Hua who led them against Luo Qingtong and the others, causing them to almost lose the opportunity to enter the Saint Monarch's tomb. Now, the other party had come to compete with them. Does this Huo clan head have any shame at all? He had done everything possible to deal with Yi Jiu and the others, yet he still had the nerve to participate in the auction of the Saint Monarch's tomb map. Even the outermost walls of Savage City, which were strong enough to withstand the attacks of adult saint beasts, were not as thick as his skin. The Wang family head snorted coldly. Huo family head, I'm afraid you've forgotten how you dealt with 9th Young Master Yi just now. How dare you bid for the map of the Sage Monarch's tomb? The Huo clan really has a good upbringing. You're so shameless now that you can't get it. The Wang clan's strength was inferior to the Huo clan's, so they were not afraid of Patriarch Hua. On the contrary, if they could get the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb that Luo Qingtong sold and gain something in the Saint Monarch's tomb, the Wang clan would be able to shake off the Huo clan in minutes. At that time, who knew who would be groveling in front of whom? Chapter 1449. Patriarch Wang's words instantly angered Patriarch Hua. When he went to Patriarch Wang to cooperate, who was the one who was so excited to agree? Now, he was saying that the Hua family was shameless. Patriarch Hua gritted his teeth. He looked at the group of cold-faced family heads who were eager to kick him out of this auction and said coldly, "Don't worry, I'm not going to give you a chance." Humph. This auction was originally held at the Sage Monarch's Tomb Convention. Naturally, everyone can participate. Besides, if Patriarch Hua wants to deal with Yizhou, can't you do the same? If you want us to not participate, that's fine too. All of you can't participate. Otherwise, the Hua family won't accept it. Patriarch Hua's voice was cold. He then turned to Patriarch Ouyang and said, "Patriarch Ouyang, as the person who organized the Sage Monarch's Tomb Convention, you are also the leader of the top forces in Wildland City. Tell me, am I right?" Patriarch Hua was also afraid that Luo Qingtong would not let them participate in the auction, so he immediately took the initiative to strike first. After saying this, he immediately sent a voice transmission to Patriarch Ouyang. "Patriarch Ouyang, please help me. If our Hua family obtains the map of the Sage Monarch's tomb, we are willing to share half of the loot with the Ouyang family." Not only that, Patriarch Ouyang, the common enemy of our two families is Yizhou. The enmity between our Hua family and him is irreconcilable. I believe the same is true for your Ouyang family. If that's the case, why don't the Ouyang family help us? Consider it a lesson for Yizhou. In the Sage Monarch's tomb, our two families can also help each other deal with Yizhou. Patriarch Ouyang's eyes flashed when he heard Patriarch Hua's voice transmission. He looked at Luo Qingtong and the others and said, "Patriarch Hua is right. In this Sage Monarch's Tomb Convention, everyone is treated equally. Ninth Young Lord, if you take out the map of the Sage Monarch's tomb for sale, our Ouyang family should have no say in who you want to sell it to. However, this Sage Monarch's Tomb Convention is organized by our Ouyang family. Ninth Young Lord, if you are too biased, our Ouyang family won't be able to answer to everyone. How about this? Ninth Young Lord, it's fine if you don't want the whole clan to participate in the auction, but the other top clans can't participate either. Why don't we let the remaining families compete? What do you think?" Ouyang family head's words were extremely obvious. That was, Luo Qingtong could not allow the whole clan to participate in the auction of the Saint Monarch's tomb map. But at the same time, other people who had also offended Luo Qingtong's top families couldn't participate. Only the remaining families could participate. However, excluding the top families with strong backgrounds, Luo Qingtong's map of the Sage Monarch's tomb couldn't be sold at a high price. Ouyang family head's words seemed to be impartial, but in fact, they were full of threats. If Luo Qingtong agreed, then the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb in her hands would be sold at a cheap price. Ouyang family head was confident that Luo Qingtong would not make such a choice. Of course, if the other party really wanted to make such a choice, that was fine too. Selling the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb at a cheap price had caused Luo Qingtong to suffer a huge loss. Chapter 1450. As soon as Ouyang family head said this, in an instant, Luo Qingtong's people and those from the top clans all cursed him in their hearts for being shameless. Especially those from the top clans, they had already made up their minds to take advantage of this auction. The whole family would not be able to participate in this auction to get the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. They did not expect Ouyang family head to intervene at this time and help the whole family. If Luo Qingtong was really willing to take a gamble and not let the whole family participate, then these people would have no chance to participate in the auction. While this group of people was about to go crazy with anger, the remaining people from the top clans were wild with joy. For these people, this was a complete surprise, a pie that fell from the sky. This was really a surprise. If Luo Qingtong really did not allow the Huo family to participate, then these people would have a chance to bid for the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. Thinking of this, the crowd suddenly looked at Luo Qingtong with excitement. The latter raised her eyebrows slightly. She looked at the Huo family head and Ouyang family head who were looking at her with a cold and proud face, then smiled and nodded, saying, "Okay." Luo Qingtong's expression was very indifferent. She tapped her fingers on the long table in front of her and looked at the Ouyang family head and Huo family head with a meaningful look in her eyes. The Huo family can participate in this auction of the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. I will not stop them. As soon as Luo Qingtong said this, the people from the top clans instantly showed a look of disappointment on their faces. The family heads of the top clans, on the other hand, were greatly relieved. Fortunately, Luo Qingtong was not so short-sighted to the point of refusing the Huo family. However, when they thought of the Huo family participating in the auction of the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb, they could not help but feel stifled in their hearts. In short, no matter what decision Luo Qingtong made, it would be very disadvantageous for them. And all of this was because of the Ouyang family. The other party actually sided with the Huo family and threatened Luo Qingtong by not allowing them to participate in the auction. Otherwise, how could the Huo family have a chance to compete with them? As the crowd thought of this, they were extremely dissatisfied with the Ouyang family head. It was the same for the Huo clan who had shamelessly competed with them for the map of the sage monarch's tomb. A group of people from the top families gathered together and automatically excluded the Hua and Ouyang families. This auction instantly divided them into two factions. The Huo family head and the Ouyang family head were on one side, while the other family heads were gathered on the other side. There was a clear distinction between the two sides. Luo Qingtong looked at this scene with a smile on her face. However, I don't want any resources in this auction. I only want your businesses. I'll sell a map of the sage monarch's tomb to whoever can offer the most valuable assets. As Luo Qingtong's voice sounded, in an instant, the faces of the people around her were shocked. There was no other reason. If the resources were given to Luo Qingtong, these families could obtain them again. However, if the assets were to be given to Luo Qingtong, then, the strength of their families in the future would rapidly shrink. Especially the assets in the wilderness city, there was a fixed number. This Yi Jiu's appetite was huge. Chapter 1451. As the crowd thought so, they all looked at Luo Qingtong in bewilderment. The latter was not in a hurry and just waited for the Huo family head's reply. The Huo family agrees. When the Huo family head heard Luo Qingtong say that she wanted to compete with their businesses, his face was full of shock. But soon, he gritted his teeth and agreed. For no other reason, Luo Qingtong must have said this to force them to back off. He would never be fooled. What's more, they would give them their businesses. After they entered the Saint King's tomb and gained something, they would definitely make Luo Qingtong and the others suffer. At that time, it was still uncertain whether they could leave the Saint King's tomb alive. So what if they took their businesses? As the Huo family head thought so, he instantly looked at Luo Qingtong with a cold gaze and nodded in agreement. He was the first to speak. The other family heads of the top families were still a little hesitant. Now that the Huo family head had agreed first, and if they did not agree, then this map of the Saint King's tomb would be his. How could the family heads of the top families be willing? Immediately, they nodded in agreement. Even if they could not get the map of the Saint King's tomb in the end, they would not let the Huo family get away with it so easily. The crowd snorted coldly and agreed. After they all agreed, Luo Qingtong nodded indifferently. Good. In that case, you can start the auction now. At the base of 10% of your businesses. Of course, the 10% of your businesses I'm talking about are your businesses in the wild city, and those in other places are not included. Don't think you can get away with it. In addition, I will entrust the people of the dark color arena to help me collect these businesses. Don't even think about scheming or scheming against me. Luo Qingtong's voice was indifferent. As soon as she said this, several family heads of the top families who were thinking of using the worthless businesses in other remote cities and wild wastelands to make up the numbers suddenly put away their crooked thoughts and began bidding. The crowd cautiously increased the price. After all, this was their business, not a resource that they had obtained. If it was resources, of course, they could call it whatever they wanted. As a top family clan, they naturally had abundant resources. But when it came to property, he had to be more careful. After losing too many properties, their status as a top-tier family was no longer guaranteed. After all, their assets were their foundation. This was also the reason why their family could become a top-tier family. However, no matter how leisurely they bid, the few families competed together. Soon, the price was close to 50% of the property. This was almost half of the foundation of these top clans. At this point, almost none of the patriarchs of the top clans continued to bid. The person who offered this price was someone from the Wang clan. At this moment, the Wang family head was gritting his teeth as he looked at the people from the top families around him. He wanted to see who could offer a higher price than him. Any higher and it would exceed the bottom line of these top clans. After all, losing more than half of their assets was enough to cause their family's rank to drop. With every 10% increase, the strength of their clans would plummet. The Wang family head was the first to call out a 50% price. Basically, victory was already in his hands. The Huo family head's face twitched violently. Just as he was about to call out a 50% price, the Wang family head took the initiative. Now, if he wanted to get the map of the sage monarch's tomb, he would have to bid higher. Thinking of this, he felt a wave of heartache. Chapter 1452. Luo Qingtong's voice rang out. Oh, right. There's something I need to tell you. Luo Qingtong smiled and said to the crowd, if your assets are not enough or exceed the expected bottom line, you can borrow from others. I'm willing to accept. Luo Qingtong's voice was indifferent. In an instant, Patriarch Huo's eyes narrowed. They could borrow from others. Then Patriarch Wang and the others, could they buy the map of the Saint King's tomb? Patriarch Huo was anxious at the thought of this. If that was the case, he would not be able to obtain the map if they joined forces. He thought about how he had offended all the top families in order to get the map of the Saint King's tomb. If he did not get anything in the end, Patriarch Huo was afraid that he would go crazy. No. He must get the map of the Saint King's tomb. 80%. We, the Huo family, will give you 80% of the assets. Patriarch Huo roared out these words through gritted teeth. Everyone was still immersed in Luo Qingtong's words and did not know what she meant. Patriarch Huo's voice rang out. In an instant, the crowd was shocked by his bid. 80%. Was Patriarch Huo crazy? He increased the price by 30%. This was 2/3 of the entire Huo family's assets. If the Huo family took out these assets, their strength would immediately fall to that of an intermediate family. Just for a map of the Saint King's tomb that he did not know what he would get in the end and whether it would be enough to offset the price he had paid. Everyone present looked at the crazy Patriarch Huo as if they were looking at a lunatic. The latter did not care about others' gazes. 80%. Patriarch Huo's eyes were bloodshot. Who else is following? Patriarch Huo's heart was bleeding as if it had been stabbed countless times by someone. The Huo family had almost given up all their assets for 80% of their assets. Did these people think that he would not be heartbroken? However, he would leave these businesses to Luo Qingtong and the others for the time being. When he obtained the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb and explored it, he wanted to Luo Qingtong and the others to not be able to walk out of the tomb. Patriarch Hua's heart was filled with killing intent. He looked coldly in the direction of Luo Qingtong and said coldly, "Yi Zhou. Ninth young master. Start counting. 80%. Even if the Wang family wanted to borrow from others to suppress him, there wasn't enough time to discuss it with others. He was definitely going to win this auction. The Hua family head's heart was filled with pride. He endured the pain in his heart and looked at Luo Qingtong provocatively. She wanted him to lose the map of the Saint King's tomb. Dream on. He was determined to get the map of the Saint King's tomb. Luo Qingtong looked at the Hua family head's provocative eyes and laughed. There's no need to count anymore. Hua family head, you've won. Luo Qingtong's words just now were deliberately said for Patriarch Hua to hear. Otherwise, why didn't she say it earlier or later? Why did she say it when Patriarch Hua was about to bid 60%? Others did not know what number Patriarch Hua was about to call, but Luo Qingtong could read lips. She could tell what price Patriarch Hua was going to bid. If Luo Qingtong did not speak, Patriarch Hua would have won the auction with 60% of the price. Chapter 1453. He would have to pay an additional 20% of his assets. Congratulations, Patriarch Hua. This map of the Saint King's tomb is now yours. Luo Qingtong said as she threw the map of the Saint King's tomb in her hand to Patriarch Hua. Patriarch Hua thought that he had seen through Luo Qingtong's scheme and successfully obtained the map of the Saint King's tomb. Now that he heard Luo Qingtong's words, the smug and provocative smile on his face instantly stiffened. You did it on purpose. Patriarch Hua was about to vomit blood. He looked at Luo Qingtong's smiling expression and then looked at the expressions of the people around him who were looking at him like a fool. He was so angry that he was about to have a cerebral hemorrhage. Luo Qingtong's words just now were deliberately said for him to hear. And he actually fell for it. The Hua family head's hand trembled as he held the map of the Saint King's tomb. He pointed at Luo Qingtong with his other hand and did not know what to say. He gritted his teeth so hard that they creaked. He finally came to his senses. If he had insisted on bidding 60% just now, even if the people of the Wang family could borrow from others, they might not be willing to follow up. After all, if he had bid more than 50%, even if he had obtained the map of the Saint King's tomb, the price he had to pay was too high. If it wasn't for the fact that the Hua clan already had a death feud with Luo Qingtong and had a falling out with the other top clans, they wouldn't have been so desperate to sell the map of the Saint King's tomb. He had been cheated by this Yi Zhou again. Patriarch Hua's teeth were clenched. He suddenly reacted and looked at Luo Qingtong as if he wanted to eat her alive. As for the rest of the people, after being confused at the beginning, they instantly understood the crux of the matter when they heard the Hua family head's words. No wonder the Hua family's patriarch suddenly called out such a high price. From 50% to 80%, they all thought he was crazy. He didn't expect that because of Luo Qingtong's words just now. He was afraid that the Wang family and the other top families would join forces to prevent him from bidding for the map of the Saint Monarch's tomb. That was why he suddenly raised the price so high. The Hua family head's reaction was extremely fast. Unfortunately, he was tricked by Yi Zhou. With this thought in mind, everyone was shocked by Luo Qingtong's quick thinking and meticulous thinking. The young man advanced step by step and actually set up a huge trap for the Hua family head in an instant. Before she spoke, and even after she spoke, they were still somewhat unable to react. The other party's grasp of the Hua family's patriarch's personality and temperament was simply perfect. The words that made the Hua family head change his mind and call out 80% of the bid was just right. If it was too early, the Hua family head might not be fooled. But if it was too late, the matter would be a foregone conclusion. Luo Qingtong would not be able to get any benefits from it. Only at that time, and with an accurate grasp of the Hua family head's mentality, could she succeed. Everyone looked at Luo Qingtong in amazement. The latter's expression was indifferent. Patriarch Hua, thank you for your generosity. As Luo Qingtong spoke, she asked someone to deliver a property deed to the Hua family head. The bright red 80% written on it made the Hua family head's eyes bloodshot. He almost wanted to tear this property deed to shreds and announce that this transaction was not valid. Chapter 1454. The people from the dark colors arena were eyeing them covetously from the side. Luo Qingtong had used the guest elder token just for this matter of the sage monarch's tomb conference. These people naturally had to handle this matter beautifully and properly for the other party. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a disgrace to the dark colors arena's reputation? In the future, who would be willing to value the guest elder token of the dark colors arena? Patriarch Hua, please. Chief Steward Qing, who had been silent all this while, spoke at this moment. As soon as he spoke, no matter how unwilling Patriarch Hua was, he had no choice but to sign this property deed. After all, under the watchful eyes of so many people, he had called out the 80% price and urged Luo Qingtong to hurry up and announce that he had won the bid. There was no room for quibbling at all. If he dared to go back on his word, the people from the dark colors arena had the right to enforce it. At that time, the Hua family would be the ones losing face. And because of this, they would have to go against the people from the dark colors arena. The gains did not make up for the losses. As Patriarch Hua thought of this, he almost broke the pen in his hand. Swish, swish, swish. He gritted his teeth and quickly signed the deed. Here you go. He threw the deed onto the table in front of Luo Qingtong fiercely. This Yijio better not be complacent. Sooner or later, he would take back all these properties from her in the sage monarch's tomb. At that time, he would make her pay back all the humiliation she had inflicted on the Hua family 1,000 times over. Patriarch Hua was panting with anger. He looked like an enraged fighting bull as he stared fiercely at Luo Qingtong. The latter didn't care at all. In this life and her previous life, there were many people who hated her and wanted her life. Who was Patriarch Hua to her? Luo Qingtong's expression was indifferent. She picked up the contract and glanced at the Hua family head signature. Then, she tapped the table and looked at Hu Zhongtian and the others who were not far away from her. Family Hu, is your family Hu willing to swear a heavenly oath to be loyal to me? As Luo Qingtong's voice sounded, the surrounding people suddenly understood. As expected, Yijio came to the Hua family's business to pave the way for family Hu. The people from family Hu were really lucky. They actually got themselves such a great god. Other things aside, Yijio was able to invite the king of the southern region and the people from the dark colors arena. Family Hu's people were really lucky to be able to get her help. If it weren't for Yijio, even if family Hu was lucky enough to escape the bi-family scheme, they wouldn't have been able to escape the fight for the map of the sage monarch's tomb. If it weren't for Yijio, family Hu's entire family would have been wiped out the moment the map of the sage monarch's tomb was exposed. Which of the many families present was kind? Especially those top families who had stepped on the bodies of many other families to get to where they were. It was even more impossible for them to have the slightest bit of compassion. Didn't the Hua family snatch the map of the sage monarch's tomb? They were only defeated by Yu Sihuang, who was invited by Yijio. Otherwise, family Hu's people would have been wiped out a long time ago. As the crowd thought this, they suddenly looked at family Hu's people with envy. Chapter 1455. After surviving a great disaster, one was bound for good fortune. Not only did they rely on Yijio to avoid a calamity that almost wiped out their entire clan, but they were also able to obtain such a great fortune. 80% of the top-notch clan's property. And it was the Hua clan's property, which was considered one of the best among the top-notch clans. As long as family who obtained this property deed, they would immediately be able to leap from being at the bottom of the middle-ranked clans to being comparable to the top-notch clans. This fortune was something that countless middle-ranked clans might not be able to achieve even if they spent 100 years and possessed good luck and opportunity. But now, family who had achieved it so easily. Countless clans below the top-notch clans looked at the property deed in Luo Qingtong's hands with envy. If this property deed was given to them, they would immediately make a heavenly oath without hesitation and acknowledge Luo Qingtong as their master. After all, everyone knew the weight and value of 80% of the clan's property. Unfortunately, they did not have the luck. The crowd looked at Hu Zhongtian and the others with envy and jealousy. However, the latter and the others were still in a daze. What did ninth young master mean by this? Was she going to give this property deed that represented 80% of the whole clan's property to family Hu Zhongtian, Hu Fei, and the rest of family who were all stunned? Only Hu Yinyang and Chu Lingfeng were so happy that they could not control themselves. Chu Lingfeng's thoughts were simple, so he did not think too much. He only felt that it was great that his grandfather and uncle could work for his master with him and his mother. Hu Yinyang was so happy that she cried. No one knew better than her what Luo Qingtong's words meant. The young lady had risen from the Blackfield sub-city of Eastern Fence Country. She had shocked the world with her first demonstration of her talent. Evil Dr. Ghost Eye's name was known by everyone in the 4 regions of heavenly evolution. She also had the Blackfield as her backing. That supremacy of the Blackfield was so devoted to her master. If family who could be accepted by Luo Qingtong, then the far west wilderness would definitely not be the end of their development. To the Hu family, this was absolutely a massive lucky chance. Father, big brother. Hu Yinyang couldn't help but cry out. Hu Zhongtian and Hu Fei immediately snapped out of their daze. They looked at the excited Hu Yinyang and Chu Lingfeng, and then looked at Luo Qingtong, who had an indifferent expression. They immediately cupped their fists and knelt down, saying, "We are willing." Hu Zhongtian, Hu Fei, and the others didn't know Luo Qingtong's identity. However, their entire family was saved by Luo Qingtong, not to mention that Luo Qingtong had reunited their family. At this moment, Hu Zhongtian had his son and daughter by his side. Family Hu, who was on the brink of extinction, was also revived. Such great kindness. Not to mention that Luo Qingtong only wanted them to pledge their loyalty. Even if she asked them to use the lives of family Hu in exchange for her safety, they wouldn't even blink an eye. They had received too much kindness from Luo Qingtong, and they were only willing to repay it with their lives. Hu Zhongtian, Hu Fei, is willing to swear a heavenly oath to pledge loyalty to the ninth young master. Luo Qingtong looked at Hu Zhongtian and his son, who were half kneeling on the ground with cupped fists. She smiled and moved her lips slightly. Her words were sent into their ears by a special sound wave. My name is Luo Qingtong. You can also swear on my other name, Evil Dr. Ghost Eye. As Luo Qingtong's voice entered their ears, Hu Zhongtian and his son suddenly raised their heads and looked in the direction of Luo Qingtong with shock and excitement. Chapter 1456. Hu Zhongtian and his son did not have much of an impression of the name Luo Qingtong. But even Hu Fei, who had just regained consciousness, had heard of the name Evil Physician Gui Tong. He was the future of the Blackfield and a genius alchemist. His abilities were far beyond that of an average alchemist. More importantly, although he was a man, he was able to make the supreme martial artist of the Blackfield fall in love with him. Such a young man was actually the Yijiu in front of them. Hu Zhongtian and the rest were shocked. Soon, they thought of another problem. It was rumored that there was a shopkeeper Yen by evil physician Gui Tong's side who helped him manage many matters in the Blackfield mansion. This shopkeeper Yen, the two of them could not help but look at Hu Yinyang, who was standing next to them. The latter smiled with tears in her eyes as she looked at the questions in their eyes and nodded gently at them. Yes, that's right, Father, Big Brother, I am shopkeeper Yen of the Black Field. I am in charge of all matters in the Black Field for evil physician Gui Tong. Hu Yennyang's gaze and performance clearly told them this. Hu Zhongtian and Hu Fei were hit by a huge sense of surprise and happiness in an instant. Especially Hu Zhongtian. He had always felt guilty towards Yennyang and did not dare to ask her how she was doing outside, what she had been doing all these years, or who Yijiu was. Now, he knew all about it. His daughter was shopkeeper Yen, who had a high status in the Black Field. No wonder Yennyang was so dignified when she returned this time. It was no wonder that she respected Yijiu so much. Ha ha ha. Under the puzzled gazes of the crowd, Hu Zhongtian suddenly laughed and then knelt down heavily on his other leg. He knelt down on both knees and kowtowed heavily to Luo Qingtong. Family Hu Zhongtian pays his respects to Master. His voice was filled with joy and reverence, and at the same time, with deep gratitude. He was grateful to Luo Qingtong for saving his daughter so that she would not have to wander around outside and die. He even gave her such glory. Thank you, Master, for taking care of our family Hu. Our family who will never be able to repay your kindness. In the future, I will serve you with my life. Anyone who violates this will be punished by heaven and earth. Heaven and earth will punish him. Following Hu Zhongtian's words, the voices of Hu Fei and the others were also heard. As they swore their oaths to heaven and earth, there was a boom in an instant, and the clear sky was like a thunderbolt. The heavenly Tao accepts the oath. In the future, if anyone from family who disobeyed Luo Qingtong's orders and was disloyal to her, they would immediately fulfill their oath and be punished by the heavens. As soon as this oath was made, everyone in the 4 seats was very surprised. Not because of anything else, but because the people from family who had made the highest vow to heaven and earth. Not only that, they even sold themselves to Luo Qingtong. In the future, he could only listen to the other party's orders and could not disobey in the slightest. Everyone had originally thought that they would only swear loyalty to their businesses and would still maintain their independence in other areas. Who would have thought that the people from family who would make such a vow the moment they opened their mouths? Were the people from family who crazy? Even if Yijiu had saved them and given them such an opportunity, there was no need for them to sell their entire lives to him. The families from Wild City were in disbelief and could not understand the thoughts of the people from family who. Chapter 1457. Other people, even if they knew Luo Qingtong's identity, wanted to be like Hu Zhongtian and the others, but Luo Qingtong might not accept them. The reason why she accepted family whose people was mostly because of Hu Yennyang and Chu Lingfeng. Moreover, Luo Qingtong's 80% share of the Huo family's property really needed someone to take care of it. Luo Qingtong originally wanted to help Su Yu and the others gain a foothold in Wild City. But with 80% of the Huo family's property in her hands, she changed her mind. Su Yu and the others had already received the resources from the Bai family and the Voodoo sect. If they also received 80% of the Huo family's property, they would not be able to swallow it all in a short period of time. Moreover, the Huo family's property was deeply rooted in Wild City. If a family like family who already had a foothold in Wild City, obtained it, it would not cause too much of a backlash. But if a new power suddenly appeared and obtained it, it would inevitably attract the attention of many families in Wild City. At that time, everyone would know that heavenly diabolism was her power. For example, the Ouyang family and the others would definitely do their best to deal with them. This would be disadvantageous to Su Yu and the others, and was not Luo Qingtong's original intention. Therefore, it was best for family whose people to take over. Family who was originally an old family in Wild City, and they had their own connections. They were also not unfamiliar with the Huo family's property. Not only would it be easy to take over, it would also not attract too much attention and backlash. With heavenly diabolism's people, one in the light and one in the dark, it could not be better. In the future, she wanted the entire far west desolate region to be her world. In the sky spill 4 regions, only the far west desolate region did not have a unified power. It was just right for Luo Qingtong to establish and expand her own power. She wanted her name to be mentioned in the sky spill continent, no longer as the Blackfield's evil Dr. Ghost Eye. Instead, she would be the master of the far west desolate region, Evil Eye. Yi Qianxian was the eastern domain supreme, and she wanted to be the western domain's demon lord. He swore that he would stand by his side openly and fight against him as an equal. No one in the world could say anything about it. In her entire life, Luo Qingtong had never been willing to be under anyone. Even if she was facing the man she fancied, it was still the same. Moreover, the Huas had once humiliated Hu Yenyang by handing over 80% of their assets to the family Hu to manage. This was a huge gift from her to Hu Yenyang, so that she could properly vent her anger. Good. Since you are willing to recognize me as your master, then this is a gift from me to you. Also, here are 10 sets of pills that I obtained from the Blackfield's evil Dr. Ghost Eye. They can help you clear out the accumulated diseases in your body and temporarily restore you to your peak state so that you can break through to a higher realm. As Luo Qingtong spoke, she took out the 10 sets of medicinal pills and threw them to Hu Zhongtian, along with the 80% contract. The latter's hands were trembling as he took the 10 bottles of pills and the deed of termination. 10 bottles of pills. They could clear out the accumulated diseases in their body and temporarily restore them to their peak state so that they could break through to a higher realm. No one didn't know what these pills represented. It had to be known that for a martial artist of his age, when he tried to break through to a new realm, the biggest obstacle was his own lack of strength. Sometimes, even though his comprehension of the realm had reached a certain level, there was no way for him to break through the shackles and enter a new realm. This was because there were too many diseases in his body. You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.